G'day, I'm Thundercloud. My mum calls me James. I'm here in the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. I'll begin tonight by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of this land on which I sit and stand and deliver this poetry tonight, banned by people, and acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging, and their continuing connection to the land, and also acknowledge all First Nations people on this land now called Australia and their continuing connection to the land. Tonight I present to you the poetry of a Mr. James Sweeney. I'll be reading from this book, Original Australian Verse, and this is what he looked like. You see that? That's him. So, James Sweeney was an Irish immigrant who born in Galway in Ireland in 1875, and he arrived in Queensland in 1930 at the age of 55, and he left and returned to Ireland in 1945. So he spent 15 years in Australia, mostly in Queensland, and he published no less than 5 books of verse. He was a travelling poet, peddling his ware as he went. And the one I'll be reading from today is this one, Original Australian Verse, first published as original verse, and then upgraded and republished 3 times up until 1943, and also renamed from original verse to Original Australian Verse, and each time it got a bit of an upgrade and a few more poems in it. He made his living by writing and selling his own verse and poetry. What else can I tell you? It's a very kind of bush ballady kind of style, indicative of its time, and also deals with his Irish subject matters like the Beauties of Galway, patriotic matters like one called the National Anthem, and also the White Australia policy. It was published by Tomalin and Wigmore printers, Sydney, and then it's got 40-hour week, so they must have been doing a 40-hour week then. Original Australian Verse by James Sweeney. I'll read you the foreword. Enjoyment can always be obtained in the reading of good verse. It helps to a greater appreciation of nature, fosters the national pride, and even provides clean, healthy humour. This collection of original verse contains many poems, which will be found suitable for quiet reading on every occasion, and which will be the source of inspiration and pleasure. It's well worth its modest cost. Among the literary reviews this book has received, the following are selected. And this is from the Catholic Leader in Brisbane. A new book of Australian verses, always of interest. The latest to hand bears the title Original Australian Verse and is by J. Sweeney, a Brisbane poet who presents about 30 pieces. His love of Ireland appears in the Exile, Beauties of Galway and others, while Australia is celebrated in My Native Land, an Ode to Australia. Mr. Sweeney's very laudable democratic note sounds in the Sweated Labour, his love of nature in Get Back to the Bush, his humour in pieces such as The Old White Cow. All right. So it does appear that Mr. Sweeney did travel quite widely before he settled up in Proston and up near Kingaroy in Queensland and Wandi Shire in the Burnett River region. And the last poem is dedicated, Wandi Shire, and his first one here is about the Murray River. Old Man Murray. 3,000 miles it glides along by homestead, farm and town, and many a murmuring waterfall by rugged scrublands brown. To sleep and rest my weary limbs, I oft-times stretched at ease, where the Murray willows gently sway to every whispering breeze. Near the little town of Wentworth, a lovely scenic place, the old man hugs the darling in a lingering long embrace. Submerged knee-deep the gum trees stand in the overflow, while the Murray meets the darling, and together south they go. He's regarded as a rebel that cannot be subdued. He's no respect for boundaries in his wide expanding mood. I have seen him very tranquil and his placid waters low, and also rise in anger till the valleys overflow. I've often roamed the Murray banks to rest me after toil, and sat beneath the welcome shade to watch the billy boil. To me, a joy both day and night, I seem to see them still, the stately swans that sail upon the Murray by Swan Hill. I'm getting old and weary, soon the last lap will be run, but the Murray banks will be explored by thousands neath the sun, and light again the campfires gleam, the old time songs are heard, but time and space will not efface the memories Murray stirred. That's it. A thought. Feathered warblers in the bushes, and the rivers full of fishes, the torrent as it rushes down the mountain side. Flowers beautify the bushes, isolated or in clusters, the rainbow of the waterfall and the motion of the tide. All proclaim a vivid story of the wisdom, power and glory of him who rules the elements and made mountains, sea and sky. Next, Centenary Procession. I've seen many a gay procession in this and other climes, where thousands march to the beat of the drum to many a cherished shrine. But the most wondrous and impressive that ever I have seen was the Centenary Procession, neath the banners of the green. The youthful pride of Melbourne, how they marched in grand array, neath the emblems of their fathers and the darkened penal days. Our hearts with joy were bounding as we gazed upon that scene, as St. Patrick's Day was played by the Celtic boys in green. No vain display of earthly pomp inspired us on that day, but to honour Christ the crucified we marched along the way, and to celebrate the progress made the century has seen, with the spires that point to heaven, oh, the banners of the green. Next, Midnight on the Range. On the wild west coast of Erin, my youthful days went by, where I heard the wild waves booming and the curlew's wailing cry. Now memories of the distant past, oh, what a wondrous change to find myself in Queensland in the homestead on the range. Beneath the shade of mighty gums I often shut my eyes to picture bright May mornings when the larks sing in the skies. But alien sounds disturb my dreams that seem to me so strange when I hear the dingoes howling at midnight on the range. But there's one sound I love to hear, and one I know so well. I hear it every Sunday morning, its joyful message tell. You hear it ring in every land, for it can never change. Now I hear it from the little church vibrating o'er the range. The sounds and seams of other days I long to know once more. To mingle with the young and old I travelled with all of yore. I'll bless the dawning of the day when all can be arranged to bid adieu to the kangaroos and emus on the range. Ned Kelly was a gentleman. Ned Kelly was a gentleman, many hardships he did endure. He battled to deprive the rich, then gave it to the poor. But his mode of distribution was not acceptable to all, though backed by certain gunmen known as Gilbert and Ben Hall. Yet I think it was a pity to hang him with a rope. They made Australian history, but they shattered Kelly's hope. If they'd sent him into Parliament up in Macquarie Street, he'd have helped the poor and needy, though not perhaps the elite. Perhaps now in Australia we'd have millions trained with him and laughing with a vengeance at the little yellow men. Since Ned went o'er the border there has been many a change, yet we may adopt his tactics round the Owen Stanley range. Yes, Kelly was a gentleman but never understood. We want men of such mettle now to stem the yellow flood. If Ned and his guerrillas were with us here today, those Japs would not be prowling round New Guinea and Malaya. Clew Bay. There are many scenes in Erin that to this fond heart adhere, but I love of you, indeed of you, the fairest of the fair, with your heath-clad hills and sparkling rills that forever sing and play, and leaps and bounds and soft sweet sounds flow rippling to Clew Bay. And in youthful days I climbed the reek with companions young and gay, and thousands of pious pilgrims, oh, how they knelt to pray, to offer up their thought to God, that from him they may not stray, on that lofty peak St. Patrick's Reek that towers over Clew Bay. And oftentimes I fancy that I stand upon the reek to gaze upon the scenic beauty that worldwide travellers seek. I see in dreams enchanting scenes now so far away, the grandest place the mind can trace, the reek and old Clew Bay. Sailing in the Eva from Turk to actual sound, you see the ancient strongholds and beacons that abound, breastling the wildest billows, splashing through showers of spray, that ever rolling onward wash pebbles on Clew Bay. Farewell for the present to friends far off and old. If I set sail for Innisfail, that story may be told. If I feast eyes on seas and skies, ere my bones turn to clay, and climb the reek, long vigil keep over islets of Clew Bay. Next one, a little bit of Ireland. Just a little bit of Ireland, where the Irish settled down to clear away the scrublands and build a little town. The liberty denied to them in the Isle of Destiny is cheerfully enjoyed in that little colony. The tiny little shamrock may not thrive in foreign soil, yet its memory ever cherished by the sons of honest toil. And the faith of St. Patrick, planted in every gale, is flourished in Corriot, a wee bit of Innisfail. Just a little bit of Ireland where the Irish settled down to clear away the scrublands and to build a little town. And the faith they never carried with them will never, never fall while St. Patrick watches over the children of the Gaul. Mistakes. Mistakes, big or small. If you're a crank, make you swear. But if you're pious, gentle nature, you'll instead breathe a prayer. The latest to hand must cause laughter and fun when the mistake is made by a pious gentle nun. To procure olive oil for the sanctuary lamp, a meritorious act saints see at a glance. Horror of horrors, when the lamp would not light, caused much excitement and gave her a fright. When the call came for dinner, they all gathered round, but why the lamp would not light, there was none could expound. Yet there was nothing mysterious but strange to relate. She filled the lamp with honey and put oil on the plate. Sweated labour. My memory will cease to be before I shall forget those hellish days neath scorching rays that bitter thoughts beget. Though years may come and years may go, wherever my abode, I'll hate those days beneath a tent down on the Lawson Road. Under a sun 101 in the ever-welcome shade, caused thoughts to dwell on the fires of hell as we plied the pick and spade. Some say that work won't injure you, that leisure hours corrode. They never swung a mattock's weight down on the Lawson Road. With thirst intense we had to drink from a stagnant muddy pool, a fit abode for a frog and toad, reptiles of every school. So are the seeds of discontent in men's mind deeply sowed. Oh, would that I could rid the world of such as Lawson's Road. With cunning smile, deceptive glance, the red light hovered near. In silent mood we toiled and stewed, with ne'er a word of cheer. Our back went well bent, like hell we went, with hunger for a load. Protests were vain, sweat ran like rain down on the Lawson Road. Sweated labour is forbid, but divine and human laws. But few will aid the worker in his lone uplifting cause. Still my few words of protest here may help to ease the load of those who delve their lives away on such as Lawson's Road. The next one is called National Anthem. Forward Australia and vigorous youth, let progress be based on a standard of truth. Gay, happy, contented, united and strong, to the front rank of nations march boldly along. Praise God in Australia and all will be well, and in homes of plenty all virtues may dwell. Oh, like a young giant, so forth with each stride, with progress your slogan, whatever betide. Come then, Australia, lift out of your trance, you're destined for great things, awake and advance. You'll meet with reverses, but brush them aside. Onward, Australia, sweep on like a tide. March onward, Australia, the path has been cleared by sons now immortal to all folks endeared. Write their epics in gold on each hill, tower and square, to keep memories fresh of your sons now not here. Well, that's a patriotic one. The next one is called The Exile. I remember James Sweeney was from Ireland and he came out here when he was 55 and he went back to Ireland when he was 70 in 1945. the Exile. Beneath the far-flung southern cross, when the sun is blazing hot, and my heart is sad and weary, my thoughts are sure to stray to where I felt a cooling breeze that ne'er shall be forgot, in a verdant little island far away. One's always greeted with a smile in that lovely little isle, not lightly with good morrow or good day, but with a prayer, God bless all here, God's with you always, never fear, in that lovely little island far away. They may be poor, but God still gives them patience to endure all trials, so from him they may not stray. An exile's prayer is, God bless all there in that lovely little island far away. Its emblem is a symbol of the Trinity divine, and like the faith St. Patrick's planted, there shall not decline. And he loves that little island, pays for it all the while, and for exiles from that island far away. Ode to Ireland. To wander o'er your fertile plains, quite free from every care, and climb your rugged mountain heights and breathe the balmy air, or rest with your sylvan glades or 'neath your skies of blue. Oh, the grandest land on earth today, old Ireland, is for you. Dear native land, oh, what on earth could aliens give to you? All you desire, could admire, is here for you to view. Your sons are brave, your daughters fair, your future's fairly sure. Your harbours grand with silvery strand are gems that will endure. And selfish knaves who ill behave with selfish ends in view shall find no place within your shores their evil deeds to do. And all your ills will soon be nil, your worries will be gone. This glorious land, so old and grand, is good to gaze upon. To write of all your glories reads more gifted pen than mine, to sing your praises to the world in ringing and phrase in line. But when my span of life is o'er, this life I bid adieu. My soul may soar from shore to shore, your glories view anew. My song. I wish that I could write a song, inspiring men to right each wrong, and banish want from misery from glorious Australia. What a glorious land 'twould be, with all men and women free to fulfil their destiny in glorious Australia. My song would say, dispense with jails, let virtue bloom where vice prevails, and slums on all the hills and dales in glorious Australia. And in each city industry my song would urge equality, and over all sweet harmony in glorious Australia. Well, I'm halfway through the book now. Take this opportunity while I'm having a break to click on the subscribe button and subscribe to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame here on YouTube. And you can also, underneath in the description is the GoFundMe link, so to make sure that I can continue my work here to preserve poets of Australia, it's not only the settlers, but the First Nations people as well. The next one is called The Lost Legion. Oh, what a crime and grievous wrong to be told when I am 21 to quit my job and march along in the ranks of the Lost Legion. Now I am a man, but when a boy my wages were far from high. Now victimised I'm forced to fly to the ranks of the Lost Legion. Ambition I must set aside, carry my swag, discard my pride, march along with rolling tide in the ranks of the Lost Legion. Must I submit to the powers that be that have ruined my future destiny in a land of plenty, fair and free, and march in the Lost Legion? The source and motive of, you can guess, of propaganda neatly dressed, daily put forth by the pressed, but naught for the Lost Legion. To us trivial matters daily come about horses, dogs and cricket runs, and degrading crime we get the sum, but no line for the Lost Legion. Our statesmen travel the world around to see if aliens can be found to cultivate the fertile ground denied to the lost legion. Through town and country now we roam with no respects of a future home where young Australians should be grown, who would help to build a nation. A cup of tea. The next one is called A Swagman's Opinion of Politicians. It's probably very, very pertinent every day and always is. They say that we are lazy, but in proving it they're hazy. It's enough to drive me crazy. Few it seems can understand. Not a little irritating, oftentimes humiliating. It is while we stand out waiting, empty billies in our hand, tramping, calling at each station for a tiny little ration. It is no kind of recreation in a thirsty, dusty land. And oftentimes I wonder what's the cause of every blunder that has rent our hopes asunder and our wishes to expand. Some say our politicians always after soft positions, mouthing frothy ebullitions, are unworthy of their pay. With deficits and defaulting and easy political vaulting, they come very nigh assaulting each other on the stage. But they talk such contradictions that sound very much like fictions, and airy friendly frictions they have us in a maze. Failing banks and institutions, government bankrupt for solutions, there are threats of revolutions murmuring from day to day. I suggest amalgamation, one government for the nation, of such scanty population than the failures of today. If we had more Christian feeling, less bickering and jeering, our ills would soon be healing. That's a humble swagman's sway. There's a very interesting line in that. I suggest amalgamation, one government for the nation, of such a scanty population than the failures of today. Well, this was published in 1941, which is, goodness gracious, about 50 years after Sir Henry Parkes' Federation speech, which was before Federation of Australia. And in that speech, Henry Parkes, and this is my little political rant, suggested that we get rid of all of the colonies and states and we have one Australia without states. So we get rid of not the Queensland and Victoria and New South Wales and all of those states, and we just have one government. And that would end all of the duplication and the confusion and all of the doubling up of laws and doubling up of bureaucrats right around the nation for such a scanty population. Now, my suggestion would be to totally get rid of all the states and have bioregional management, local councils, bioregional local councils of Australia would make a lot of sense, and then we could start to recover and rejuvenate this gorgeous, beautiful land to like it was, or more like it was pre-colonisation and invasion, and now where we've got these borders, which mean people up there in Queensland can divert the Darling River water, and then the people down there in Wilcannia can't get any water. Anyway, that's my political rant. Moving right along, the bridge at Sydney. High above the water, in the bright and balmy air, the greatest span of steel designed by any engineer, I'll travel all the world around and many sights you'll see, but the masterpiece of genius is the bridge down at Sydney. Modelled to perfection, there is beauty in each line, with masts erect, great ships can pass with topmost colours fine. In vain I would explain it, you must take a trip and see the wonder of all history, the bridge down at Sydney. Over its span by bus or tram, all folks may safely ride, and for the minds which planned it, they can have an honest pride, for their names they've added fame. Oh, what a legacy to go down in the annals of the city of Sydney. Its spacious landlocked harbour, one of nature's grand designs, but Sydney's bridge is grander with its straight and curving lines. If I but had the leisure, I would wander fancy free across this arch so wonderful, the bridge down at Sydney. We read of wonder arches which the Romans built of old. The Eiffel Tower was a sight for mankind to behold. But though it may be something worth what it would cost to see, an awe-inspiring sight is the bridge down at Sydney. The Beauties of Galway. If ever you go to the Emerald Isle in the country of Galway, spend a while, you meet a scenic beauty in every mile throughout historic Galway. There are all the hills are towering high and seem to kiss the azure sky and peep at heaven in the sly, those towering hills of Galway. Lakes and rivers all amber clear, there's something bracing in the air that makes one feel like racing a hare over the hills of Galway. Wandering over those bracing hills, you'll surely meet some mountain stills, and there you can sit and drink your fill of mountain dew in Galway. It's good for peasant, peer and king, 'twill banish care and make you'll sing, fond memories will around you cling on the days you spend in Galway. When of mountain dew you'll have your fill, if for one moment then you sit still, you'll hear sweet music by each rill by the fairy tribes of Galway. And when the dew begins to fall, you'll hear the banshees' lonely call, then mustering with a fairy ball with leprechauns in Galway. Forever in those lonely dells, playing their pipes and ringing bells, that cast around you magic spells in the mystic vales of Galway. If along the coast you'll chance to stray, you'll meet the lofty cliffs and winding hay and mighty waves that splash and spray the rugged shores of Galway. You'll meet men there over 6'4", mighty giants along that shore, whose daring feats in the days of yore are still folklore in Galway, with ruby lips and laughing eyes, in which some charm to subtle eyes. They are like angels from the skies, those charming maids of Galway, with ruby lips and laughing eyes. I'm repeating it. And when it's time to come away, you'll wish you could prolong your stay. But memories fond you will repay of times you spent in Galway. Interesting. There's a page here that's actually got his signature on it. J. Sweeney. When you and I were young, "30 years today, my dears, since you and I were wed. Oh, where is the sheen of nut brown hair, and oh, where the roses red? But that wondrous love light in your eyes, yes, I can trace it yet. For those who love as we have loved, they never can forget. When first I saw your winsome face in yonder crowded hall, a vision fair that outshone the grandest of them all. After you vanished from the scene, I never heard nor saw love's young dream, new to me, filled with my soul with awe. Though youthful dreams have passed away, sweet memories with me still, when I recall those meetings rare by shady grove and hill. Your hand in mine we strolled along, as love's young dream we spun. Such love must come from heaven above, when you and I were young. Beauty and grace of form and face, alas, must fade so soon. Like the rose that withered lies, retains a sweet perfume. And fondest hopes had been fulfilled ere joy and sorrow met. And those who love as we have loved, they never can forget. God's Acre at Bardia. In God's Acre near Bardia, where our youthful hero lies, and the night winds softly sigh o'er the gallant dead, are little crosses in a row, placed by comrades there to show fierce battles raging to and fro, where brave Australians led. And within each hallowed ground, beneath each cross and sandy mound, some mother's darling sleeping sound, who for freedom bled. Although sleeping far away, friends will never cease to pray that God in his mercy may grant them a heavenly crown. This would have been written during World War II. And the next one as well. A battle cry. Fight ye now for faith and freedom, fight ye for Australia's cause, better sleep in valour's grave than be enslaved neath Nippon's laws. What though myriads fight against ye, what though bitter be thy foe, hurl them back to whence they came, with allies true give blow for blow. You are fighting for your freedom, for your affairs, land and life, for the honour of your loved ones. Is it not a holy strife? Pray to God your arms to strengthen, and your efforts will prevail. God alone can crown your victors, in your favour tip the scale. The Sydney Slums. Now I know from my research this was written in 1943, and James Sweeney returned back to Ireland in 1945 at the age of 70, so he would have been 68 when he wrote this. The Sydney Slums. They tell us Sydney's great and grand. I wonder why our statesmen stand for slums that long since be banned. Disgraceful to the nation. Wandering through a festering slum, I watch the faces as they come, undernourished, pale and glum. I marvel at their patience. In Campbell Street, the home of thugs, metho fiends, fleas and bugs, a man must really be a mug to camp at such a station. In a little den they call a room, they gave me fork, knife and spoon. For a cup there was no room, on the box they called a table. And when I scrambled to my bunk, whether sober or half drunk, the pest they came on me to lunch and kicked while I was able. The bugs, they were so big and fierce, they blistered feet and hands and face, and when in anger I gave chase, we raced around the stable. Countless fleas, both big and small, crawled up my legs and up the wall, and when their raids I tried to stall, they jumped a 5-foot paling. The mosquitoes buzzing around my ears would make a crocodile shed tears, and if I lived 100 years at them I would be swearing. Now to Sydney I bid adieu, if I may come back, and if I do, I hope no slums will meet my view, where young and old are ailing. The perfect lady. Poor Joe, he was a simple soul, yet witty things would say. Though Bill was in a hurry then, he asked him, would he stay and solve for him a problem which was worrying him that day? Say, what are perfect ladies now, or where do they come from? They make such a fuss about them all, in story and in song. Pray tell me about them now. Are they found in every land? For to meet the perfect lady sure, I think it must be grand. They're simply grown-up babies, now I hope you understand. The cream of all creation in this and every land. Your mother was a lady and would be still, of course, if she hadn't got the notion your daddy to divorce. And is it then unladylike to love another man, to romp and play with him and stray, and with him sing and dance? And oh, such conduct is glossed over now. It's simply called romance. When will you meet the perfect lady when you walk upon the strand with very little clothes on, without any special brand? Or when you go to the theatre, will you meet her on the stage, the audience loudly cheering? They seem to be the rage. You may meet the perfect lady in the mansion or the hall. You may meet her on the stage or surfing on the strand. But these are not the only ones, I'll have you understand. You may meet the perfect lady in a very humble cot, practising all the virtues that for ages have been taught. She is modest, mild and faithful, she is both true and kind, and she is the perfect lady to clean and simple mind. The Roads of Connemara. That's another one he wrote about Ireland. I've travelled smooth and rugged roads in many foreign clime, roads through scrub and forest lands where the sun rays never shine, where the emus and the kangaroos forever wander free, but the roads of Connemara are the roads I long to see. Feathered warblers in the bushes, the boarhen and the lane, the blackbirds and the thrushes I long to hear again. The old home on the hillside, a view of land and sea. Oh, the roads of Connemara, the roads I long to see. To wander on the hillside when the heather is in bloom, to hear the bees all humming, sweet music of their own. A view from Slime to Atchel while the white gulls soaring free. Oh, the hills of Connemara are the hills I long to see. To watch the golden sunset and the sail upon the bay, the cuckoo's song each morning in the lovely month of May, the lark high on the heavens singing so merrily. Oh, the bays of Connemara are the bays I love to see. To greet the kind old neighbours with God save you and a smile, to hear of giants and fairies that roamed through Erin's Isle, to hear their wit and humour with laughter ringing free. Oh, the folks of Connemara are the folks I long to see. Oh, this is an interesting one. I'm going to bring the bike over for this. It's called the Malvern Star. Here we go. Oh, I'm not Mulgabill. Malvern Star was a classic Australian bicycle. I'm not sure even if they make them anymore. Possibly not. I set out from Proston for old Kingaroy. The going was easy, to ride was a joy. I covered the miles without hitch or a jar on that wonderful product, a Malvern Star. Chorus. Hurrah for the star, the Malvern Star. Up hill and down dale it has carried me far, so I sing this song as I pedal along. Hurrah, hurrah for the Malvern Star. As swift as a swallow's flight over plains, I jumped little gullies and climbed up the reins. And I once looped the loop, for there's nothing can mar a rider when driving a Malvern Star. Hurrah for the Malvern Star, the Malvern Star, up hill and down dale, it has carried me far, so I sing this song as I pedal along. Hurrah, hurrah for the Malvern Star. The weight that it carries is heavy indeed, yet nothing appears to retard its great speed. A boon to all travellers who can't get a car, the cream of the market is the Malvern Star. Now, from Proston to Kingaroy. So he lived up in the South Burnett River region, up in Queensland, about 250 k's north of Brisbane. The Heroes of Tobruk. Who comprise those gallant heroes, and where did they come from? Renowned in song and story, Aussies some 1,000 strong. They are composed of Macs and O's with Smiths and Jones combined, with Camerons and Campbells to fortify the line. Now famed the wide world over for the blows they gave and took on the sandy plains of Africa in and round Tobruk. Now, what inspired such valour many 1,000 miles from home? It was not lust or conquest, they had plenty of their own. For it was faith and freedom and Australia's honour too, and to stem the tide of evil and tyranny subdue. Urged on by noble sentiments, the Aussies cannot fail, for God, King and country their arms will prevail. You may scan all history's pages, but wherever you may look, you'll never meet with braver than the heroes of Tobruk. Next, said the poor old man. There are good ships on the sea, said the poor old man. Ships never known to flee, said the poor old man. They'll be here without delay, with a freight that's dear to me, and will shout for liberty, said the poor old man. And what colours will they wear, said the poor old man, or what colours will be there, said the poor old man. What colours should there be but those of the brave and free, flying over Australia free, said the poor old man. Then aggression will not pay, said the poor old man, for we'll drive all foes away, said the poor old man. They say we are but few, yet united, strong and true, with God's help we'll all pull through, said the poor old man. When the Yanks and Aussies join, said the poor old man, with the British colours flying, said the poor old man. Oh, won't it then be fine to see them sailing all in line, with their hearts and flags entwined, said the poor old man. Right against wrong. Right against might is the theme of my song, and why right should prevail I'll try to explain. The author of right can never go wrong. Opposition to right, therefore, will never prevail. The world's in a turmoil of crime and simply rife, with the nations all aiming to take God-given life. A suggestion from Satan that all should take side to destroy each other, the outcome of pride. God gave us knowledge to know evil from good. Then he gave us a free will to do as we would. If we ignore his commandments, his laws we despise, where the servants of Satan, the father of lies, propaganda most vile from the press and the air, tends to foster disunion and not to repair. No message of peace to a war-weary world, while threats and defiance with vengeance are hurled. A failure every peace move that man could devise, no hope for humanity, but its sacrifice to uphold certain laws not cherished by all, as if to slay millions never matters at all. What seeds have engendered this terrible strife, and who are the culprits that waste human life? The causes of trouble from virtues don't spring, war makers are demons masquerading as men. How lightly they talk of the millions have killed, the homes that are shattered, the blood that is spilled, the youths of the nations in vigour and bloom, emerging from boyhood are facing their doom. Ah, why will humanity not realise that peace and goodwill cannot blossom from lies, when dictators and traitors to God on their knees abjure their vile treason, will mingle in peace? Gone to the dogs. When first he took to racing, his worries were but few. Unable to balance the budget now, he's puzzled what to do, and when he loses a fiver, he consoles himself with grog, saying, "I'll get square with the bookies when I back the winning dog." He knows of every kennel for many miles around, the trainer and the owner of each black and brindle hound. Keen study of the race news produces mental fogs. Oh, he's not the man he used to be since he went to the dogs. The bookie shouting from their stands is ringing in his ears. It's 10-1 against Speed Along and 5-1 against Spears. The amplifiers swell the noise, the bookies squeal like hogs, and his last pound he planks upon one of his favourite dogs. The hare's set free, the dogs unleash, the starter yells, "They're off!" The seething crowds then loudly cheer, although a few may scoff. The favourite dog leads for a while, then a winner out he hops, as the punter, disappointed, goes minus bread and chops. His wife looks very worried, and pallid is her cheek, and little Tim and Angela are fretting in their sleep, and he must tighten up his belt and wear the same old togs, as there's nothing left to finance with since he went to the dogs. Someone wrote the proverb, "It's now too late to mend," but how can one economise when there's nothing left to spend? Once more he'll test his willpower for reminders, his old togs, a neglected wife and kiddies, since he went to the dogs. Okay, a couple more pages left. Glorious land, Australia. Yeah, well, it's debatable at that time because it was in the middle of the White Australia policy, which I'll read to you in just a little bit. Dear glorious land, Australia, beneath the southern sun, wondrous land of rare delights, thus day has just begun. Thy beauty pure, unsullied, no matter where I roam, stirs my heart with glad content. How sweet to call thee home. Beauty in thy mountain peaks and limpid crystal streams, rolling plains and rivers wide that brings to life the dreams, and those who live in misery in old world slums alone. And see thee not, Australia, how sweet to call thee home. Majesty is everywhere, from eastern to the west. In a golden haze the sunlight's rays bedeck the ocean's beast. Coral beauties gird thy shores, rare gifts to thee alone. Dear Australia, land of mine, how sweet to call thee home. My happy little room. I have none of the riches or possessions of the great. My mind is my kingdom when I alone I meditate. The noble in his mansion or the king upon his throne may lack the sweet contentment of my happy little home. My mode of life is simple, my wants they are but few. I have fresh air and sunshine and other blessings too. Wild flowers in abundance, and when the roses bloom, they peep right through the window of my happy little room. My happy little room, my cosy little room, I'm happy and contented in my tiny little room. For me the dewdrops glisten at the dawning of the day, and how I love to listen to each feathered warbler's lay. The bright and warm sunshine, the soft rays of the moon, always seem to linger round my happy little room. Okay, next one. We've got what? 4 more poems left of original Australian verse by James Sweeney. Erin Gra Ma Tree. I've seen Australia's cities and her rolling plains. I've heard the thunders rumble amid the tropic rains. But sure the misty mountains, the wild breeze along the sea, the lark astir at dawning, are calling all to me. The wildlife in the scrublands is varied and is strange, with all its various roaming over valleys and over range. The lyrebird and bellbird are beautiful to see, but they're no match for warblers in Erin Gra Ma Tree. The wealth of young Australia is wondrous to behold, where miners dig up silver and nuggets all of gold. But give me bold headlands to gaze out o'er the sea, when the cuckoo is softly calling in Erin Gra Ma Tree. You'll see vast wealth and wonders wherever you may roam, but surely you'll lack contentment found only near at home. The merry simple pastimes are dear far to me, with the loved ones I remember in Erin Gra Ma Tree. Excuse me. The Man from Alabama, our White Australia policy. When Dark Joe from Alabama met a girl from La Perouse, they agreed upon a good time in the parks and at the zoo. Debating love and marriage and changes war would bring, he stole his arm around her and offered her the ring. She said, to fall for your desires is something I'll never do. To disgrace my friends and relatives around by La Perouse. You must know the pickaninnies would be brindle, black or brown, then our White Australia policy would surely topple down. We won't accept the Chinamans or tolerate the Japs, and if we mate with black men, won't our policy collapse? I'll wed a dinkum Aussie, and to him I will be true, and help our white Australians around by La Perouse. Pausing for a moment, he said, I know what I will do. I'll go back to Alabama, to the sweetest girl I know. And when the war is over, it's where we'll settle down, then your white Australian policy won't topple to the ground. Yeah, so remember this was written in, 1943, it was published. So in the times of the white Australian racist policy. Next one, Brisbane Rose. In warm, sunny Queensland, where grandeur reigns supreme, with lake and hill and forest glen and many rippling stream, 'neath azure skies a fair flower lies, whose virtues no one knows. Meekest, mildest, rarest is this lovely Brisbane Rose. Her step is bounding light, and free, her form as young and fair. Her bright eyes shine with light divine, her conscience pure and clear. Her looks are modest, mild and sweet, like lilies in repose. Gayest, grandest, fairest is this wondrous Brisbane rose. Her name I shall not mention here, although it's not unknown. Like angel's voice, her every word has clear like bell-like tone. The queenly smiles that light her face dispel my darkest woes. Most perfect thing I've ever seen, this rarest Brisbane rose. May heaven guard her all through life from sorrow and distress, whose lovely face and peerless grace my words cannot express. Let poets write it then and tell them in wondrous verse and prose the name and fame in words that fit this lovely Brisbane rose. And here I am up to the very last poem of James Sweeney's original Australian verse, published by Tomalin and Wigmore in 1943. And if you like this, click on the link, give it a thumbs up, click on subscribe and subscribe to more Australian poetry from Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. And underneath in the description is the GoFundMe link, and you can also donate so I can keep this cultural heritage enterprise going to preserve these old poets of Australia, but also to nurture new and upcoming poets. And the last one today is Wandai Shire Council. The Wandai Shire Council once held a meeting, inviting some tenders that came with a will. Thus all road machinery soon went into motion to take all obstructions from Proston's Black Hill. George Platt was sent there as he knew all the phrases of land handling explosives with courage and skill. He drilled in the rocks and he blew them to blazes and uprooted the trees that adorned the Black Hill. Frank Wesley came there with determination. Himself and his henchmen, they worked with a will. And now it is fit for the next generation to hop, step or jump over rugged old hill. The mould board was gilded by dashing Donacious, led in by young Johnson with wonderful skill. They ploughed up the earth, a trial in their patience, till they sighted their levels along the old hill. Jack Taylor came there with his team of wild horses. Tyrone and others joined all in the run, and removed countless scoopfuls of greasy black substance and replaced it with metal where once there was none. When storms came a-raging and rain falls in torrents and flowers till each gully is filled to the brim, oft travellers are forced to abandon their flivvers. 'Tis a dangerous job if you're unable to swim. So now any fellow, black, brindle or yellow, can travel the road without making his will, for all troubles are over and sportsman and drover can safely pass over the rugged old hill. And that's it for original Australian verse by James Sweeney. I'm Thundercloud Repairian, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. I'm here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, and everyone knows my mum calls me James. Now if you like that, give it a thumbs up, click on subscribe. You get more poetry here from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, and also underneath in the description there's also the GoFundMe link so you can donate to this incredible cultural institution, the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, the Australian Poetry Library and Archive that preserves little old books like this that would otherwise be thrown out or go missing forever. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful night, morning, day, whatever the time is, where you are. Peace and love. See you later.